That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime is a good show. No, scratch that. It's a great show. It's one of the goats of isekai because it does one thing spectacularly well, and that thing is nation building. It does it so well that in my opinion it makes Reincarnated as a Slime a goated isekai anime. Seeing Rimuru improving his country is so enjoyable, and to do a nation building story you also need to have a great world building alongside it, and I feel like Reincarnated as a Slime has garnered this level of popularity and success because the staff at Studio 8-bit giving it the time to flesh out the story and telling it properly. Another anime that could have rivaled Reincarnated as a Slime was Overlord. Studio Madhouse have blood on their hands. Overlord could have become a great hit had they adopted the story properly. Each season of Overlord is restricted to 13 episodes, even though it's another goated isekai anime that does nation building amazingly well, and the anime massively pales in comparison to its light novel, but that's a video for another day. And I'm really grateful Reincarnated as a Slime didn't catch the same fate as Overlord and is told properly, which made the anime into a very good show. We got to see Rimuru slowly getting stronger. We don't only enjoy his journey to become strong, but also his companions and his country, the Jura Tempest Federation, and it's an amazing journey. But recently there have been murmurs because of events that have occurred in the story, and let's talk about them. But before you go further into the video, please make sure to like and subscribe, and without further ado, let's get back into the video. The majority of isekai stories are adaptation of light novels, which means instead of adapting pictures like when adapting manga, animators are going to be adapting words, so they have to be more creative and imaginative when adapting a light novel compared to adapting a manga. And one aspect of translating a light novel into an anime that is pretty tricky to do is adapting internal monologues and similar things like it. If you've noticed, isekai stories have their main characters internally monologuing more than any other genre of shows, because most isekai's anime stories are adaptations of light novels, and in novels having a character monologuing in their head to describe their internal feelings and thoughts is very normal, and it doesn't feel out of place as it would in anime. So in season 3 of Reincarnated as a Slime, we get meetings for 6 episodes straight, just characters describing the political and economic and social situation they are in. Those 6 episodes were just basically all the major players and their antagonists sitting and talking. My genuine feelings on this matter when I was watching them was enjoyment. I enjoyed the meeting episodes because it was a build-up for major incidents to happen, and it was getting me more hyped, and I found the politics and the world building very interesting. But I understand those people who didn't enjoy these episodes and were frustrated, because if it was only one episode of a meeting you could just dismiss it. It ain't a big deal, but 6 episodes is a bit much. Some criticisms I've heard is that people didn't like the fact that it broke the storytelling rule of show don't tell, but I bet you this wasn't a problem in the web or light novels. It's just tricky to adapt this sort of moments from novels, but I'll admit, even though it didn't bother me as much, back-to-back meetings for characters just sitting in the room and talking is a bit too much. Other than that, Reincarnated as a Slime's anime is a very enjoyable show. As I said before, it is one of the goats of isekai when it comes to world building. One of the most interesting thing for Slime for me is the conflict. Having a monster MC and a cast of characters of monsters where one of the main religious groups of the world, the Western Holy Church, doesn't condone the existence of monsters, and Rimuru is a monster and the nation he's building is a monster nation. The thing that makes this very interesting is that the Western Holy Church was justified in including this anti-monster doctrine into their religion, because before Rimuru, monsters killed humans on sight. That was what monsters were, just mindless beasts who attacked humans wherever they found them, and the church justifiably adopted an anti-monster doctrine. But now when Rimuru gets reincarnated into this world as a monster and starts civilizing the monsters and makes them more powerful and intelligent, it becomes so interesting, because not only the church, but also the inhabitants of the world are faced with a conundrum. And the most exciting moment of this story for me was the arc where the Falmouth Kingdom attacked Jura Tempest just for this fact. They couldn't comprehend the fact that monsters started their own nation, and also they wanted to take their resources. That's the state of affairs we see many times in history. Wars fought between different factions for different reasons, but when you deep it at the root cause of it all, there is economic interest, and Rimuru and his companions, being the overpowered beings they are, win the battle. But I got to see that section of the story was the most hype part of it all. It happened in season 2. The first fight between Hinata and Rimuru, where Hinata almost killed Rimuru, was really intense, and Rimuru's ascendance to Demon Lord was epic as well. But as Rimuru and his companions get stronger and stronger, I fear that the story might lose tension, because I have to see Rimuru and his companions are very overpowered, and I know one of the thrills that we get from watching Reincarnated as a Slime is Rimuru's companions absolutely obliterating the arrogant humans who think they could one-up them. But I wonder how this could continue before it goes stale. I see how the author is going about this problem, and that is by creating many factions and expanding the world so that the story could continue while still maintaining the tension and suspense. But I wonder how long this could continue. Another story that handled this problem well is Bongo's Stray Dogs. In Bongo's Stray Dogs, each season we are introduced to new factions of antagonists, sometimes without any foreshadowing, but the thing that saves it from feeling villain of the week type of thing is that the antagonist characters are very well written and they have depth to them, so it makes you forgive each time a new group of antagonists are introduced each season. You can't tell me that the author of Bongo Stray Dogs had the villain group Hunting Dogs of season 4 in mind when he was writing the contents of season 2 and season 1. Forget anime, even TV shows like The Sopranos, we are introduced to new characters that were retconned, but since they are very interesting and add a whole lot to the narrative, you can sort of turn a blind eye, and that's the only way I see Reincarnated as Slime keeping us interested in the story. The upcoming villains should be very interesting and should enhance the quality of the story, or else it would just be another group of antagonists getting absolutely annihilated by our heroes, and that might turn stale real quick. But even if the characters are very overpowered and the tension in the story may decrease, the nation building aspect of it is so good that it keeps your interest. That's one thing Reincarnated as a Slime has going for it compared to other power fantasy anime. It not only has the ingredient that makes power fantasies good, which is seeing a weaker character rising up through the ranks and obliterating arrogant characters at the top, but the world building of Reincarnated as a Slime is so good it could rely on it as a crutch when the power fantasy side isn't jamming as well, which is a sign for a really solidly written show. Such as the Colosseum arc, there is no action in it, but since they are building a Colosseum, and the greatest Colosseum in this world is in Ingracia, and it could be easily surpassed with what Rimuru is trying to build, and that is very interesting. This power fantasy anime is not characters just surpassing other characters through strength and magic, but it is also the nation itself surpassing other nations by being better than them. The nation of Jura Tempest is like an overpowered character. You want to see the nation developing and being better than its peers through their road construction for trade, the way they improve their military, and also how they improve their technology. But I just have to add one important thing. This story should end at its natural ending point and not go further more than that. What I mean by natural ending is that after Rimuru and his companions alongside their nation Jura Tempest becomes the strongest nation or best nation there is, this story should end. I don't want to see a new organization or factions of antagonists getting introduced to the story out of thin air just to keep the story going like how Dragon Ball used to do it. I know I've said as long as they do well and make the new characters they introduce into the story interesting, that I'll be okay with it, but that can't keep going on forever, and it is not sustainable. You could only use it so much. Like the 7-day clergy, when they were introduced there was no foreshadowing, and I know they were the teachers of Hinata and someone must have taught her how to be a hero, so they were retconned like that, and they were introduced to the story as the people who taught her how to be a hero. I have no problem with with it, but I wonder how long this could go on before turning stale real quick. I'd rather see the characters who are already introduced be the major antagonists in the coming arc, such as Guy Crimson or Leon Cromwell. But I have to admit, even after seeing all this, that time I got Reincarnated as Slime still does a good job of introducing new characters and expanding the world, like the Eastern merchant Damrada from a faraway land to the east, and also how he and other characters were talking about demons like Diablo being common in their land. Now that's a good way of expanding your world. It might not be the greatest, but you're not introducing characters out of thin air. Now in the future, when we get introduced to a demon or one of the 7 primordial demons from that side of the world, it won't feel jarring because of the dialogues we had foreshadowing them. Overall, I really enjoy Reincarnated as Slime. Sometimes I enjoy the pure dialogue sections more than the fight scenes because of the reasons I outlaid, but I get people who don't, especially when you have it for 6 episodes back to back, and I think it could have been done better. If you've made it this far into the video, please make sure to subscribe and like, and with that said, see you guys in the next one.